Life is pointless is a reaction I think most people have felt at one point or another in their lifetime. Whether it be after losing a loved one, losing something you held close to you, or failing at a task despite your best efforts. Many people question their purpose on this rock we call the world, in the middle of an empty, yet vast universe, when they realize how insignificant and lonely we truly are. Which is why I am creating this video. A talented man once said, "Life is a blank canvas, and you need to throw all the paint on it you can." And that sums up my exact thinking. Who would want to waste their time questioning what we are supposed to do with this canvas we call life, when we have such a finite amount of time on Earth? But how does one not fall to despair when faced with the indifference and sometimes cruel reality of the world? Will you do it like how Chito and Yuuri did it in Girls' Last Tour, a 2014 Japanese manga and anime series, following the adventures of two sisters, as they scavenge for supplies and try to survive in a post-apocalyptic multi-level city, where almost all living life on Earth has gone extinct due to mass wars and food shortages. The two travel from location to location on their vehicle called a Kettenkrad, searching for supplies like food, water, and fuel to continue surviving. They take the occasional break to enjoy a nice meal or warm water when available. Chito, the brains of the two, enjoys writing her thoughts in a journal and reading the small amount of books she has from her grandfather, one of which is involved in a scene where Yuuri, the brawn and easygoing of the two, burns one of Chito's books because of the lack of fuel for a fire. The book she burned is referred to as Kappa, which is a real-life book, being a novel written by Ryunosuke Akutagawa in 1927. It tells the story of a psych ward patient and the telling of the time he visited the land of the Kappa, which are water demons in Japanese folklore. He learns about the culture of the land and meets several of the Kappa, one of which being a poet named Toku, which the patient encounters in the form of a ghostly spirit after the Kappa committed suicide. Toku, being a poet, admired philosophers and writers who had taken their own life, like that of German philosopher Philip Mainlander, and his dislike for Arthur Schopenhauer, because, as he mentions, he was a pessimist who didn't take his own life. Schopenhauer's most popular theory, and the one that is hinted at very frequently in Girls' Last Tour, was that of the will, which in Ben Thomas's video, The Philosopher Who Took His Own Life, is described as the craving everything has that it has no exact aim. This, in Chito and Yuuri's case, is the endless striving and search they have for food, water, and fuel to continue their endless striving. Or as Chito first mentions in episode 3, we find it, save it, then go on the move again, always thinking there might be something waiting for us at our destination. However, in this endless striving we call the will, man craves more than just existence, which Schopenhauer believes this, in sense, makes the will the root cause of human suffering. Like as Chito says, they always think and hope that there might be something more than just continued striving waiting for them. In the beginning of Girls' Last Tour, Chito and Yuuri didn't have a final destination, before they decided to aim for the very top of the city, as supplies are more prevalent on the higher levels, and they think there might be other people living happier lives up there. So, as they have a final goal, they continue their tour, eventually running into a man named Kanazawa, who, as we learn, is also trying to make his way to the next level of the city, to continue making his maps, which he has a fondness for. So, Chito, Yuuri, and Kanazawa work together and eventually reach an old elevator that will bring them to the next level. However, as they are being brought to the top, the elevator has a malfunction, causing Kanazawa's bag containing all of his maps to slide off the elevator. He tries to reach and grab for them, but they fall all the way back to the bottom. With all his life work gone, Kanazawa falls to despair. He asks to be let go and fall alongside his maps, as Chito and Yuuri had caught him. He is eventually pulled back into the elevator, and he says we're all gonna die anyway, there's no point in living. They eventually reach the top, watching over the city, as the beautiful streetlights turn on, illuminating the skyline. Yuuri, seeing Kanazawa still depressed, tries to give him part of a ration and says this, even if it's meaningless, sometimes nice things happen. I mean, look how beautiful the view is. Even in this dark world, devoid of life and hope for humanity, Yuuri still finds joy in being alive. Kanazawa takes the offer of the ration and enjoys it. It tastes good, he says. With this new motivation, he decides he will continue onward to make more maps. The girls and Kanazawa split up, as Chito and Yuuri head toward the higher levels of the city. Continuing their journey, the girls learn about things like temples of worship and religion, learning that some people don't want to think of the afterlife as being a dark world, so they made temples with bright lights and statues to feel at ease in life. In episode 9, they eventually make their way up to a higher level, and discover a building with an AI-driven robot who is a caretaker for the last fish on Earth. From this AI, we learn more about the world. He tells us that the Earth was once one large living being, but humans chose to separate themselves from its processes. Humans built cities to provide the environment for their existence, as an alternative to the cycle of water, air, and energy. This ties in directly to Philip Mainlander, as mentioned in Kappa, and his theory, the death of God. Mainlander, born Philip Batts, was a philosopher and poet during the 19th century. Being a pessimist, he had several radical ideas to most people, more specifically, that non-existence is better than being. In the same Thomas video, Mainlander's observation of the world is one that is simultaneously unified and fragmented. Sometimes we feel at one with everything around us, and other times we feel alone. Man is both a part of nature and noticeably distinct. Mainlander held a belief that the world was united at one point, this unity being called God, but has become more and more fragmented over time. So, since God is all-knowing, would therefore come to the same understanding as Mainlander, that non-existence is better than being. God would then start his process of self-fragmentation, as he cannot simply cease to exist, like humans can. Like I said in Kappa, it is unfortunate for the gods, that unlike us, they cannot commit suicide. This self-fragmentation would divide God, this also being unity on earth as we know it, into pieces, continuously dividing till he would no longer exist. Mainlander gives us this terrifying idea that the world is simply the rotting corpse of God. Humanity has reached a point of no return in Girls' Last Tour. They have resorted to wars that brought humanity to near extinction, as seen throughout the series, with weapons, battlefields, and destruction with no life to be seen throughout the city. Humanity, as Mainlander believes, has been striving toward one final achievement throughout all of its existence, that being non-existence, moving toward God's completion of full self-fragmentation. With Chito and Yuuri being some of the last living creatures on Earth, nearly completing God's desire for self-annihilation. Chito and Yuuri, after learning more about the world from the AI caretaker, decide to help save the fish after another robot has started to destroy the building for resources. Even when they know full and well that the fish will eventually meet the same fate, they decide to save it anyway. Later on in episode 12, the girls make their way to a submarine that was emitting radio waves. In this submarine holds the creatures known as Iringi, and from them, Chito and Yuuri learn that the Earth is coming to an end. They also tell our two main characters that by their observations, they are the last two humans still left alive on Earth. Even when faced with the reality that humanity ends with them and that life on Earth is coming to an end, Chito and Yuuri don't fall to despair. As Chito says, "But even if the world ends, I wouldn't really care. As long as I have you, I'm happy." With this, Chito and Yuuri still have a destination in mind, the very top of the city. So they continue onward, doing many things along the way, like talking to an AI with the desire to not exist, finding a space rocket station, and finding and exploring a huge library. One of the books that Chito finds is The World as Will and Representation by Arthur Schopenhauer. As they get closer and closer to the top, their Kettenkrad eventually breaks down, a bell ringing for the end of their last tour. The girls take it apart and turn it into a tub for one last warm bath. The two open their last bottle of alcohol, and Yuuri sings for Chito. The two take as much supplies with them as they can, and they begin their long walk to the top. As they go on their way, they start to run out of supplies, having to throw away things they don't need to save weight, and eventually burning books like Kappa and part of Chito's journal for a fire after running out of fuel. Chito, obviously saddened, says this, "Maybe I was too afraid of forgetting, as if in a deep, dreamless sleep. I'd have a gaping hole in my memory, but it's fine. I'm waking up every morning, still alive." The girls reach the last spiral staircase that will take them to the top of the city, and in a chilling dialogue, the two confess that they are both afraid of death. They have reached the point where they have lost everything, even the light, now walking endlessly in the dark. Chito questions that if this is what it means to live, by returning back to the darkness from which they came. That if her and Yuuri had become one together, that if they have become one with the world. In the final chapter of the series, Last Stop, Chito and Yuuri start to see the light break through the darkness. Chito, nervous, holds Yuri's hand as they step into the light. The two have reached their final destination, and when their eyes adjust to the light, there is nothing. A bare flat land covered in snow, and nothing above them but the night sky. The two, having nothing left, decide to drink some water to celebrate. As it settles in that they have nothing left to lose, Chito starts to question whether or not they did the right thing. She begins to wonder if they should have went somewhere else, somewhere with food and warmth to continue surviving. Beginning to fall to despair, and the will starting to take over Chito's thoughts, Yuuri pulls Chito out of the darkness and into the light by throwing a snowball at her face. And the two break out into a snowball fight. Yuuri says that they don't know if they made the right decision or not, what they should have done, that she doesn't know why they are the last two people on Earth, that she doesn't have any idea about anything, but what she does know, that living was the best, as Chito tackles her to the ground. Yeah, Chito agrees, holding close to Yuuri. Chito, still worrying that she won't be able to learn more about the world before she's gone. Yuuri responds with reassurance and understanding of Chito and her worries about the end. The sun starts to rise in the distance, so they decide to go watch it together and talk about how Yuuri is the happiest person in the world and how Chito is the second happiest, while also being the unhappiest person in the world. They laugh about it together. They return to their supplies and look over what they have left. They realize they have one ration left, so they warm up water and enjoy their last meal together, with smiles on their faces. Hey, what do we do now? Beats me. First, we eat, get a little sleep, and then we'll think about it. Chito and Yuuri achieved their final goal of reaching the top of the city. They enjoyed all the good things on the way, and presumably passed away in their final night together, ending their last tour. They lived their life on their own terms, and instead of turning back and finding somewhere they can continue on living, Chito and Yuuri were eventually able to come to terms with their choice, and enjoyed the life they lived, allowing them to silence Schopenhauer's theory of the will, spending their last night together peacefully at the top of the world. Life is pointless, and that's okay, because this very meaninglessness forces man to create his own purpose in life, and even then, there are just some nice things sometimes. This is a conclusion I came to after watching Girls' Last Tour. I think the way Chito and Yuuri went about their daily life, despite how bleak it really was, can be compared to French philosopher Albert Camus' essay, The Myth of Sisyphus. As Chito and Yuuri went from level to level in this ruined city, just trying to get by, they found ways to enjoy the nice things they did have, and they did it all together. Whether it be enjoying their rations, taking a warm bath, staring at the night sky, or enjoying their last night together, Chito and Yuuri enjoyed every moment, even when they knew their end was near. As Alex Gendler said in his lesson about Camus' essay, instead of despairing, Camus imagines Sisyphus defiantly meeting his fate as he walks down the hill to begin rolling the rock again. And even if the daily struggles of our lives sometimes seem equally repetitive and absurd, we still give them significance and value by embracing them as our own. Despite all the things that pass by us daily that we may never notice, Chito and Yuuri believed that the joy of being alive never passes by, even when facing the challenges of living in a world that is destined to end. Because there are some nice things every once in a while, and that is enough to keep on going and enjoy living while it lasts. And that is the hard part. When one understands that their life is pointless, or that everything they love on Earth will eventually come to an end, it is hard not to fall to despair. But it is for this very reason that when man is able to come to terms with the challenges of the world, just as Sisyphus did, we are able to find our own enjoyment and purpose in life. Just as Ben Thomas said in his video, what is existentialism? If we can come to terms with this indifference, and accept the challenges of life within the boundaries of death, however mutable man be able to make them, our existence as a species can have genuine meaning and fulfillment.